What's going on, guys? Ab-stract here, and this is the Ab-stract section. Today we're going to be talking about Kenpachi's psychology and how exactly he goes about battle. I wanted to make this video because I love Kenpachi, and sometimes I think people misunderstand what's going on when he decides to fight someone. So this video aims to answer the following questions. How does Kenpachi view battle? What morals or values does he hold about fighting? And why does Kenpachi fight? Before we get started, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, and also say it with me, guys, subscribe to the channel. Let's start with the first question. How does Kenpachi view battle? Well, despite how he may come across, Kenpachi's goal is not to totally dominate or kill his opponents. Sure, he may say it, but I believe that's because he wants them to fight as if their lives depend on it. Kenpachi views battle as fun, point blank period, ain't no way around it. And he's having the most fun when there are two people giving it their very best, totally and solely focusing on the fight at hand, pushing everything that doesn't have to do with the fight to the back. This in itself gives Kenpachi the greatest of enjoyment when fighting, along with the byproducts of having a great battle. We see Kenpachi at his happiest when his opponents display the potential to be able to severely injure or kill him. After all, he is a thrill seeker. The mere idea of you even being a match is pure elation. He revels in being cut, stabbed, bruised, and hurt. To him, these things are okay in battle and even a good sign. The more damage you can do to him, the better, because that in turn lets him know how much of his own power he has to use. See, the joy Kenpachi gets when fighting is realizing he can let more and more of his power out in the hopes that you can continue to match it or better, surpass it. This is also why he has no interest in fighting the weak whatsoever, but will not hesitate to cut down a weakling if provoked. Now let's take a look at the morals and values he holds when fighting. Number 1. Kenpachi will not deliver a finishing blow unless promptly prompted by his opponent to do so. Now the number one reason for this goes back to why Kenpachi fights in the first place. Remember, fun. It wouldn't be any fun to fight someone who no longer has the strength to fight. We have to keep in mind, Kenpachi is about the thrills and the zills of being immersed in the bloody thralls of battle. So if you can't fight, what fun could he possibly have with you? To him, finishing off an opponent is the equivalent of putting a dog out of its misery. And going back to what I said before, despite how he comes across, he's not looking to kill every strong person he battles. Number 2. Underhanded tactics. Kenpachi detests fighting tactics that utilize any form of cheap attacks or what he would consider underhanded. According to Yumichika, the unspoken rule within their squad is that Zanpakuto should be used for direct attacks only. So attacks like Kido, Ninjutsu, and even ranged weapons like knives or shuriken are almost always seen as cowardly to someone like Kenpachi. Even when trapped in Tosen's Bankai that robs you of all sensation aside from touch, Kenpachi smiles, indicating he's having a bit of fun, but he also notes it's a boring way to fight. So Kenpachi respects and values a head-to-head straight-up fight, much more than planning and setups and throwing shuriken here to make it hit this one, and if I use this Kido with this attack, you get what I mean. He's about a straight-up fight, nothing more, nothing less. Number 3. No interest in the weak whatsoever. So I mentioned this before, but Kenpachi will not voluntarily waste his time fighting someone weak and incapable. It's only if you insist will it be his pleasure. Kenpachi's having the most fun when he's being injured and letting loose. He can't do that with a weak person, so it's just best if they stay out of his way completely. Now this actually brings me to something I noticed about Kenpachi. Whatever type time you think you're on, Kenpachi is also on that type time. What I mean by this is he will max your energy in full force 100% of the time. For example, the Stern Ritter show up at the Serete catching bodies. What does Kenpachi do? Catches 3 bodies of his own. Nnoitra popping shit like he can't be beat and he can't be cut. What does Kenpachi do? Shows up and humbles him with a single 2-handed sword strike. So he values what you value. If you're strong enough and you just want an all-out fight, he's with it. If you tell him you want a full-on death battle on that only one of you guys can leave alive, makes no difference to him. But this brings us to our last question. Why does Kenpachi fight? During his battle with Ichigo, he poses the question, does one fight in order to get stronger, or does one get stronger in order to fight? He then says he hasn't quite figured it out yet. I would pose Kenpachi fights for the sake of fighting. This is an answer that Kaname provided us during the Soul Society arc, and I think it's completely true. But it goes a step further in that if this was the only reason, he would have no problem fighting the weak. So I would say Kenpachi fights to fight the strongest. And if you're not the strongest, to allow himself to enjoy the fight with someone weaker, he will place handicaps on himself, i.e. the bells, the eye patch, using a one-handed sword swing and subconsciously limiting himself not to kill you in one blow. At his core, he is almost compelled to fight and seek out the strongest opponent, but it's not like he's some homicidal maniac just running around with a sword killing anybody he wants to kill. He has to find strong, reputable people who can push him to further unlock his power, or give him that thrill of being in the moment that is fighting. Fighting to Kenpachi is a way of release. In fact, it's almost like being with your girlfriend, as when you're with that person, nothing else truly matters. It's just you and that person. That's what fighting is to Kenpachi, and he loves it. He loves it more than anyone else. So with that, I hope we answered those 3 questions. I'm your host, Ab-stract, and this was the Ab-stract section. Let me know if you guys want another psychology video. How does Kenpachi view battle? What morals or values does he hold about fighting? And why does Kenpachi fight?